In the last video, we were able to put this button for the purpose of trying to open the chat picker for the transaction subhead setup. So one of the things I've noticed was that I put the wrong type of button there. What we want to open is actually a pop-up, but I think the process is going to be the same thing. So I'm going to just do it again. Instead of picking the pop-up window show action, I want to pick the simple action. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag this one here, and I'm going to borrow this name. But I'm going to go ahead. Okay, before I delete it, let me just do some quick copy and paste. So from here, I can copy target object type will still be the same. Target object type will still be the same. Target view will still be the same. The type is still the same, so I don't need to copy that. Come here, then I copy. Okay, I just want to come here and choose that category, right? Then I'll copy this name, delete it. This one, come here, paste this one, and tell us to that. And we'll see whether it will resolve without going to the application model, because the name of the button is the same. Okay, so I don't know why that one's having that challenge. Not written any implementation. Okay, so the next thing now that we have that one covered, let's go to now. This is the model that we want to use for the chat picker. In a couple of videos before this, we had done the design, and it was essentially trying to use a structure to pick the items of the chart of account segments, where each of them has a list drop down, and every other thing remains the same. Implementation, the fields, the properties are in pairs. You define a field, then you define the property, and you return and all that. So the only important thing that I want to do here is I would like to point your attention to this. Now, when in display mode, look at what it displays. But if you go to the back end, this is what it keeps as the chart code. So it is important you have that at the back of your mind for some of the actions I want to take now. Um, I put the display property of this view model as chart code, but that is not what I'm going to do now. I am going to change this to, I'm going to define a property. I'm going to call it, the whole idea is I want to define, I've already defined the field. So what I want to do now is define just the get, the property to host it, I'll call it display value. Now, this property, so let me just copy and paste this and just change it. So it should be string. Now, the reason why I didn't turn um, the reason why I didn't do this as a read-only property, just like this one, like the chat code is read-only, there's no set there, it's just get, is that there are two scenarios that will involve the setting of this property. The first one is an internal scenario where we're going to use this type of logic here. Let me copy it. Okay, so once you set it, but if it is to get it, we're going to do this. When we're getting it, we'll find out if the display value is not equals to null and the display value is not equals to empty string. So we return else we do the whole of this code here. So let me close it for now. Otherwise, we will return what is here. Now, The code I've just written here is to allow us pick, display this value. I mean, display the chart like this. But at the end of the day, we should be able to store the chart code in the database. So I am going to change this default property of this view to display value. We will still visit that. It will become clearer as we're going on. But just have it in mind that we now have a property that once these values are set, we are going to concatenate a string that will display the chart in this manner. Because these are items of the chart of account: economic, fund, functional, and the likes of it. So, but at the end of the day, what we want to store in the database is the chart code, which is just the concatenation of only their codes, not their description in the database. So that property I just defined now is to allow me to just achieve that. Just have that at the back of your mind. So the next thing now is we want to at least pop up this structure, even if nothing is going to happen. We want to test the ability to pop up this view model. And just like I've informed you initially, that once you create a view model and you build the application, the framework will create 3 views minimum for that purpose. So you can see the chart view has the 3. Well, the one we are interested in is this one. So to also show to you that it's not like I know everything, this is the code that we need to use to display a pop-up show action. So in the code, there are 2 events that we need to attend to. The event that displays the view and the event that when you click OK, will respond to it. So let me go to back to the controller of that subhead detail view, and I choose this, go to properties, and I go to the event. So this is the event that we are supposed to use to customize window parameters. So I am going to click on the execute. Sorry, this is not the one I'm interested in. The one I'm interested in is this one. Then let me copy this code and paste it here. Now, what do we want to open? We want to open from naming convention. I know that what we want to open is a chart view model. That is the type of object. See, okay, I actually wanted to do view. In my own case, I'll just create a new one. Just do So without specifying the view, I'm thinking it will just open the default view, which is chart view model underscore detail view. But to be on the safer side, let's use the overload that collects the view ID. Yes, there's this one. It's the root. No, it's not the root. The object detail view. So there's this one. View is underscore detail view. We put false that it is not the root view. Let's see. So you can see it has displayed the chart picker, and this is essentially what we want. So the next thing we need to do is to populate um, the interface with data, and that one will involve us integrating this view with when we need to control this view and integrate it with the presenter that is in charge of this interface. So let me come here now and know that we need to create the presenter. Now, like I said, you need to mirror most of the folder structure is being mirrored. So if the business object is in a folder called general, for example, by the time I want to create the presenter for it, I want, by the time I want to create the controller for it, I need to create it in the controllers folder under a subfolder too called general. It's very important for easy referencing. And right now, I'm going to name it as a view controller, and the naming convention is chart view model detail view controller, since it's the detail view we want to control. Now, scoping. Choose the view model, and the view I don't need to go and copy is chart view model underscore detail view. and the view type is detail view. So I've scoped the controller to that. So the next thing is to set up the presenter pattern, which involves locating the presenter in charge of that. I know it is in, I saw it under, yes, this is the presenter chart picker. So the first thing is I need to come, this is the stereotype implementation of how you will integrate the presenter into a controller. The first thing is locate the presenter. The next thing is implement the view the presenter needs on the controller. So I come back to the controller, go to view mode, and paste in the interface name the of the view, then click on implement to implement the interface. So this is the interface that we need to implement that will allow especially data to start appearing on the interface. So the first thing is anytime we're implementing the interface, the error message is always a standard. Throw new exception and passing the value. That was brought the error message. Now, when a chart is selected, let me see the presenter. Okay, so it's going to tell us about the chart and the description of the chart. Okay, so once the chart is selected, the ID is given to us. So what it means is that we need to keep it in focus. So what I do is I declare a mirror property with an underscore and come here and say select get it, put it here for get, set it for set. So each property in this place, you have to look at the relevance. The chart ID is something that happens after you have picked all the combinations. And the combination is supposed to point at the end of the day to a particular chart. So at the end of the day, you will need that chart to reference it. So this property too, we treated like this one. We keep it in view. This is actually what will be displayed. This is what the presenter is a way of the presenter returning this description. So now admin segments. Let me say dynamic for any placeholder. We call it any value for item that I don't need, that I know I don't need, because there's no part of the UI of this UI currently that we need this. So we might need it later. But for now, I'm okay with just putting it in any value. Then if it is selected admin true, I'm okay of returning 0 here and putting the selected admin in any value. Maybe in other places when I want to pick chat relevance will come up, but for now I don't need this. So this is where we now need to do some small coding. This is what the presenter will use to give us the list of economic items. So here I need to now write some code, and the code will just be that. Just come here and remove this and do this. Now for each item in value, because value is now a list of these items, right? Now, what does my UI need? What does my model need? Let me close and only open what I need. Now, the model for economic list, this is what I need. I need a list of these items. So what I will do is there's a property of every detail view controller called, I will normally want to put it in a variable called current object, which is equals to the view. View is always available anytime you inherit from view controller. View is the handle to the view. So this is a view. So now we want the current object in that view. Since every view is tied to it, especially every detail view, very important. Detail view, you can have a handle on a current object, but a list view might not be in that light because it's a list. With detail view is just one object, even if it contains a list of other objects, it's still one object. So we're in the context of what? A current object that is what? Is, without me going anywhere, I can just type it transaction head view. Sorry, we're in the context of um, chat view model. So I resolve it. So because this view is just a chart view model, detail view. So we're in this view now. We now have a handle on the object. Now, don't forget that it is the object that contains everything that is showing in the UI. So now that we have a handle on the object, sorry, we're supposed to have a handle on that object outside the loop. So we have a handle on the object. We can go to the current object. Go to the current object and say dot economic list. Let us initialize it so that it should be like clearing it. Then for each one we come here, we declare a new item equals to new. So I don't always like this prefix. I prefer it all be at the top. So this new item will now, you know, and another short way of doing this thing is this. Okay, let me finish this time, then I will show you the other way. So you pick the one that is okay for you. New item dot code is equals to item dot code. Then new item. So what we're just doing is translating what the presenter is giving us into a view model that is part of our own design using the ZAV framework. So we'll now add it to this list. So that is us filling the UI of the economic segment. Now, when the economic code is selected, once you want to get it, we will return the one in our, this is where we're going to now do something, very short in terms of having a handle on the current view object. So we're going to cast the current view object into the chart model. Then we want to have a handle on the economic, and let me see the presenter. Okay, code and description. So there's no ID. The data coming in is not really relevant with the ID, but we can leave it. So here, when they say long here, what we do is we return the code of the economic segment, but we will now pass it smaller. And when we are setting it, it's the same thing. We come here. Mm, what's this? So what we've done here is just preparing the presenter to give us the selected economic code and also get from us the selected economic code. Some of these things might not be useful in this particular scenario, but I'm putting it here just in case we will need to use the chart picker in other places. Everything we are doing now, when you see current object, we are trying to manipulate this object. So it's the one that requires the list, is the one that knows the selected economic, the selected fund, and all that. So our referencing here to get it is to get it from the current object, and to set it is to set it in the current object. So now I want to do the same thing for fund that I did here, but now I want to use the shortest way to do this thing, and I will do it like this. I will do right. So I will still get a handle on the current object. That one is a standard. Then I will now come here and do current. So I'm supposed to remove this one. Current object dot fund list is equals to value dot select. I'm using link this time around. So I will now say dot select new. See, it has seen that. So now the code is equals to a dot code and description is equals to a dot description. Now I'll do to list. So I see this is shorter because that's what I'll do it for all the segments before I come back. This is the functional one. So come here, add this, then change this one to functional list, then program. So this is for the queued lists. I'll still come back and visit these ones. But right now, this one is a standard. Security system dot current usage. So this is the implementation of the view. Now I need to initialize the presenter. So come here, call it presenter because I know it's the only presenter I'm going to need in this implementation. Now, when this controller is initializing, I need this code from, let's see, yes, I need this code. This is initializing the presenter. So, when the controller is activated, we also want to get back to the presenter to initialize the presenter. And initializing means it's going to fill all the drop downs with data. By the time it fills it, the presenter is going to call us back on all this code that we have written here. So, hopefully, this should bring data to our screen. And there's one part that I want to actually do here, and that is to say that for the economic, the lookup is all items we search. Functional lookup is all items we search. If I don't do that, doing that is what will change this thing into something more robust in search. You see what I'm saying? Um, Functional all items we search. Okay, all items we search. Program all items we search. So function F6 to build. So you can see this is what we're talking about. Being able to now connect it to data. So right now it's not allowing us to, because we've not done some other things on the interface, which we're going to do in the next video. So see you in the next video.